Hello everyone, welcome to yet another Buddy webinar. Today we are going to talk about how to automate tests using Cypress and TestRail. And to help me, I have Christian Dangle with me, our favorite returning guest. I hope this is your second time here, but I really hope it's not the last one. So, Christian, tell us a bit about yourself because some of the people in the audience don't know you yet.
Of course. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me one more time. My name is Christian Dangle, and I work at the e-commerce company Das ist Web in Munich or near Munich in Germany. And we create B2B online shops, B2C online shops, enterprise for enterprise customers based on 100% Shopware. And in general, I work quite a lot with development, DevOps, and of course QA, and I do just a lot. And I'm here to show you something hopefully very cool today.
Oh, I can say it is very cool. It is very cool. And my name is Maciek Palmowski. I work here at Buddy as a WordPress ambassador, and I'm your favorite and only webinar host. So before we start, let's see what we learned today. So we will learn a bit about TestRail. We'll learn how to create a project, how to use it. We'll learn how to automate testing using Cypress, and we'll see how to create the pipeline that will prepare the whole environment and run all the tests. Also, if you have any questions regarding the topic, uh, don't hesitate and ask in the comment section either on YouTube or LinkedIn. It depends where you are watching us. So I think that's all. Oh, and of course, if you like the things we are doing here, don't forget to press the subscribe button on YouTube. We will be very glad and you will be informed about all the new things that are coming and happening on our channel. Okay, so without any further ado, because I know that Christian prepared a lot of information for us. Oh, yes, he's. So, Christian, the scene is yours.
Thank you so much. All right, so if you could share my screen, then I would love to show you something.
Of course.
So this talk is all about testing. So how to automate tests with Cypress and TestRail and Buddy and Shopware 6, because we mix up everything. So in a nutshell, this is about an evolving QA process that you usually face during a project. So I will show you in a super fast way, of course, how to go from manual testing to a structured test case driven testing, and then on to automation, bring Cypress into play, and also automate the reporting and running of these Cypress tests. So everything that brings you forward in your project. But before I start, let me really introduce myself. I almost said the whole stuff here before. So my name is Christian Dangle, and I'm working as head of technology at the Shopware agency Das ist Web in Germany. So, as already mentioned, we create for our enterprise customers shops e-commerce system based on Shopware. In addition to this, I run my own company, which is LiveScore, a scoreboard graphic software that is used by NHL teams for MLB, ATP tennis, and way more across the world. So these are the companies, and besides that, I'm also involved in lots of open source projects, such as SVR Unit, that is a unit testing framework for servers, so you can automate testing servers, Docker containers, Docker images. And speaking of Docker, I'm also involved in the Docker.io project that is in the Shopware sector and industry, a huge project to speed up development environments and just get going with Shopware. So as you can imagine, I'm doing quite a lot and know a couple of programming languages such as PHP, C#, Swift, Java, and more, and do a lot in DevOps. And the final thing, QA, obviously, because if you do a lot, you know that you have to test it. Otherwise, you might have a problem on a Sunday morning. You know it. So,
or Friday evening, it's worse.
or Friday evening, it's
The
worse.
worst.
So first of all, thank you for Buddy. So they are hosting me today, so I can tell you something that you might find useful in your project and should help you in the future. So We are going to use Buddy later on, but in a nutshell, it's an amazing CI/CD system. It looks fancy and it helps us to get going in a very easy way, speaking of QA processes and also rollouts and deployments. So, our actual goals for today. I have prepared a Shopware 6 plugin. So we are going to manually test the plugin as you would probably start with your project. Then we become kind of confused. So we tend to ask ourselves, do we need test cases, specifications, acceptance criteria? We head on to TestRail and get a structured project set up. After a while, we're bored. So yeah, let's automate tests. Why not? And then we somehow get frustrated. So let's automate the reporting, the results of these automated tests. And in the end, totally nuts. Let's automate running the automatic reporting of results of these automated tests. So that is where we are in hopefully under an hour. So the repository of the day. I'll give you a few seconds if you want to scan it. The link is below it. Otherwise, Maciek will probably add it to the YouTube recording later on. You can just clone it. It has very easy installation, but for now, I would ask you to just keep on watching. So let's start. Let me show you what I've prepared for you. We have a Shopware 6 demo shop in here. So that is locally used with Docker. And in the administration, I just log in. We have a prepared extension, a plugin installed, which is a notification center. And that notification center helps us to output a text. So for instance, super discounts just for today. We can modify background color, text color. If we go to the storefront, that's just a notification text. We are now going to test that one. So I did already add a kind of a test, so I used it. But what if we now keep it active and remove the text? So will the blue area will still be available? Hopefully not. Otherwise, that might be a bug. What if we change background color? Is it really red? Yes, it is. Do we have the option, if we have like a more lighter background color, the option to also change the text color? Otherwise, you probably can't see it. So it has to be darker. So that is validation. Can we actually use the product? Yes, we can. So this is all manual testing. It's just a small plugin, but if it gets more complex, there's plenty of stuff you really have to test. But we have no instructions. That is just kind of exploratory testing, going through it, and yeah, approved. You can release it to thousands of customers. That is probably something that works, but not for a long time. So this is why, in most cases, we want to be more professional and more structured. So we are now going to the process of having concepts, meaning we have acceptance criteria, we have instructions. How should it work? What should actually be done? We verify those concepts, those criteria, and then we build test cases. Test cases are basically just step-by-step instructions. So click here, click there, this should be visible, you know it. You could use any software, Microsoft Word, Apple Pages, just Excel. Problem is, in testing, one of the most important thing is traceability as well as reporting. So where to store the results? Did it work? How to report things? Word, Pages, Excel might not be the perfect thing, though it might suit your needs sometimes. So this is why test management software exists. As already implied by the name, it helps you to manage your test cases, the reports, the results. And one of those applications is TestRail. I'm using it a lot. We use it a lot in our company because it has a totally awesome look and feel that helps you to be really efficient. So it's not that huge, fancy stuff. So if you go to TestRail, you usually create your first project. So it's a Buddy webinar in my case. A project consists of different tabs. So there's an overview. There's a to-do list. If you collaborate with multiple testers, for instance, you can add milestones if you have milestones in your project. Test runs, the actual runs that we test with the results, test cases, and reports. So test cases is the most important thing. It's basically the catalog of all your tests. It's the main thing. And this is where we start by figuring out what tests do we actually have. So Majik, now that you know the plugin, can you think of anything that we should test?
Yes, I mean, you already mentioned few cases, so we should try to first of all try to log in inside of the Shopware. Uh, shop.
Administration? Yeah.
Exactly, and then first of all check what will happen if we fill out the text. We can check is the active button is working. We can
Mm-hmm.
also check something about the empty field, because this was a very interesting edge case you mentioned. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing about testing is colors of text and background are as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
I think we
plenty of stuff.
quite a lot, and it's such a simple plugin. And out of top of my head, I don't know, 5 or 6
Yeah.
test cases
So
we have
should
already.
I
So
should I show you how to create a new test case in TestRail?
of course,
Okay, so we are in the test cases page, and there's a add test case. I could either use that one or just that's a cool thing, use some inline adding. So we probably start with the happy path. Enter, activate, and enter text, and text should be visible in storefront. That is a work in progress title. So when you add a test in TestRail, there's a detail page that helps you to add way more than just the title and the instructions. So usually you have a good speaking, not too, in my case, not too long test title. So that might not be the perfect one, but it helps you to differentiate between those tests later on. There are different templates. So you can set up exploratory sessions with missions and goals. You can have simple text instructions or even step instructions. As already mentioned, test cases are just well-prepared instructions. That means our precondition might be plugin is installed and activated in Shopware. And we add a step. The step might be open plugin configuration. Expected result is configuration visible. It's not the perfect way how I do it, but I just want to get familiar, become familiar with that one. Then activate or toggle the active to on. Toggle is on. Then let's do enter a valid text. Valid, you can't measure it, so enter text discount available. And then text is visible. Then click on save. Save modal alert is visible. And then open the storefront. You should see the notification above the main top navigation bar. Just save it. So
yes, this is the cool part about live webinars. Things like this happen.
I can't.
Let's see that. Yes, so uh, test cases and
Okay,
okay,
it's there. I
okay,
do think.
it's there.
Okay, I had them once. They have, I think, lots of people use it. They have a huge high availability setup, and seems like one app instance might have a problem. TestRail, if you're watching, it's your turn now. Anyway, so it was still safe, which is a good thing. And as you can see, the basic thing is about those different steps. So usually I would combine if you don't have it in that much detail, because the more instructions you have, the more time it takes to read it. And just imagine someone else testing it for you if you're outsourcing to a test, crowd testing or something like that. So, but in general, you get the idea. So we have steps.
So, as I
Right.
understand, such an instruction should go like a person that doesn't have a clue about your system, will just go step by step and will be able to fully understand what he's doing or she and see what the result should happen. So, like
And mhm,
everyone could
yeah,
do it.
and that combined with a reduced text if possible, so not a long one, because the problem is, if you have to test a lot of tests, you just end up reading. The more you read, the less you understand. Too much work, overloaded. So keep it simple, keep it as much as in detail as possible, but always think about efficiency. So that is indeed, as we as developers, when it comes to building a good architecture, that is really an effort to build good tests, good readable and functional tests or descriptions, test cases. So, but I think you get the idea. So then we have the option to add a type for our test. Why do we need this? If we just go back to our test cases, we have like hundreds of tests, for instance. We want to be able to filter those tests and really test what we need for a release. We have different options. One option is to have sections. Let's just create a few tests. So activated, then storefront should not show text if text empty. We have change background color of text and change text color of text. We have the option to add sections. So like colors and general. And now you know why I just love the way how the UI look and feel is being developed. It's just something you really can use in an efficient way. So one thing is to use sections to structurize your test. And then in e-commerce system, you would have checkout, account, whatever. Another way to filter these things is to use a type. So we activate and enter. That is our most important test. So that's why we use it as smoke and sanity test. So a smoke and sanity test, only a handful of these tests should in theory exist in your application. Means if these tests do not pass, it doesn't really, there's no need to test further, probably because the soul of your application is already completely destroyed and not working at all, probably. So in other words, it's important. There's also the option to have regression tests, functional tests, performance tests. So you can categorize those and use it later. Then we have priority. Yeah, okay. We can use 5 minutes for that test. So when we plan test runs, we get estimation reports and how much time to cover. Then we can use references. This could be either acceptance criteria for traceability or even your Jira ID if you have Jira connected to it. And then you even get tooltips, pop-ups of your, let's say, Epic and instructions and text. Pretty cool thing. And automation type, yeah, none, Cypress, you can do whatever you need. If I now save it, you can see that I have kind of plenty of tests. I do have different criteria, type, smoke. The other ones would be other or regression. And I can use that now when building a test run. Just one thing that I would love to tell you, need to tell you. We had huge projects with, let's say, 800 tests or something like that. So that is cool, but you can't really test it if you are not lots of people working as testers. So the good, as if you know unit tests, PHP unit or Jest or any unit tests, any programming languages. The cool thing is it runs in milliseconds, so super fast. That's why we can and should test, let's say, every property in a separate test. It's about reporting again. So by eyes, you immediately know what property is red and not that something is red. That is only possible because it runs so fast. So one test should be one assertion. If we go to end-to-end testing like this, testing takes a while because websites take a while. The whole process of such a test plugin configuration takes a while. So we faced the problem that it was just not possible to test it over everything again. So one idea would be try to structure your test in some kind of real end-to-end scenario where you implicitly test different things in one single case run. Then you can avoid having separate tests where you have to start from scratch just to test an edge case, for instance. So now that you saw how to create tests, how to what you consider when building tests, you can imagine that having professional, really rock solid test cases is really hard work, and not only hard work, but a lots of experience. And that's why testers or test managers are really super important and not just testers. Now to the dummy part. We just test what people would think of testers. So when you create a test plan release, you might create a test plan like plugin 1.0.2. In such a test plan, you can add test runs. I just show you what I usually do. I create a smoke and sanity test run. Then I use dynamic filters that brings me up the whole picker of all test cases. Now you know why sections are important. But what I do is I just use the type filter, use smoke and sanity, set the selection, click OK, and save it. Then if I would add another smoke and sanity test, that would appear here. Then I add an additional test run, maybe new features and regression. And then I manually pick what I would need, speaking of traceability, to test with that specific release of my plugin. But that is not enough. TestRail offers more. You can even create configurations and build custom groups and configuration options. In my case, I've created a group browser and operating systems. So let's say I test on a Mac with Chrome and Safari, click OK, save my test plan. As you can see, I end up having two separate test runs for my new features and regression, one for Chrome, one for Safari and Chrome Mac and Safari Mac. And I could then assign different testers to it. So there's really plenty of stuff that you can do. What if we now test? So as Magic told us, we should add a text, save, and that's it. If I start the process, I usually start with the smoke and sanity test before I do anything else. So this is the overview of all tests in that test run. I do have my step-by-step instructions. And once I know the results, I just open past, for instance. I could start and stop right now. And then I could either say it worked, it failed, I would need to retest. I could even do that on a level of those steps so that the developer really knows step 1, 2 successful, step 3 failed. So pretty cool. I could also provide a version and defects. One of the coolest things I can't show you right now because I have a couple of demo projects, obviously, and accounts which are removed later on, and an additional Atlassian demo account, But usually you create a defect, and that defect is then pushed to your Jira board as a ticket, can be developed by any of your engineers, and every test run, every test plan has a live overview of existing defects. So your QA testers could just go into that either Smoke and Sanity or plugin release package and check out if any defects are still existing and what their Jira status is. Is it in progress? Is it done? So they know without leaving TestRail what is going on. And that is just amazing. So enough compliments to TestRail. Let's just add a past because it did work. Yay. That's how it looks like. Down there we have a past or failed result. So I could add more and more as time passes. Once done, I just close my whole test plan or test run, and then everything can be rolled out or is already rolled out. So now we know how to structure tests, the work behind it, and how to, actually build and plan test plans and test runs and provide feedback on these. One thing that I totally forgot now that I see it is the chart. It's all about reporting. So your project manager might ask, hey, can we finally release our new super awesome plugin? And you can immediately say, hey, we have only 1 of 5 tested. 0% is passed, might not be good enough to release it, give us more time or fix it in the meantime. So that is just with glimpse of an eye, you have immediately every report. And in addition to this, there's a report section where you can generate those reports, but that is too much for now. So now, as promised, we are kind of bored. We have to repeat that step over and over again now that we're not confused anymore. So this is why we want to automate things. And this is where we use Cypress. If you don't know Cypress, let me just show you with that prepared project. We have a list of files, so GS files, and there's one config, and if I open it, it just tests text can be displayed in storefront. It's empty. We are going to fill it right now, but as you can see, it already does something. So it's working pretty good. If we now go to our source code, so as already mentioned, that is open source. You have total access and full access to it. Just open. So this is all Shopware. There's a custom plugins folder with our notification center plugin. And inside, there are Docker instructions to run it and tests. Tests consists of an additional folder Cypress that has a make file. So just use make install, make open UI, or make run. So if I just show you, I could do make open UI with my local host or a remote host. So you can actually test your testing system from local Cypress installation. Or just use the make run, which is the same, only on a CLI level. TestRail already fires an error because it's not configured. But as you can see, it's the same. And this is what we use in a CI/CD system, such as with Buddy later on. But now let's just open the UI one more time and actually create a test. So what we usually do is we have our Cypress test cases, and our tester one day says, okay, we have some flaky states. This is working again. It's not working the other day, or this is just too much to test over and over again. Could you please automate test number C9? So TestRail has C prefixed IDs for test cases, unique identifiers. So our goal is now to automate this test as good as possible. So usually there's a kickoff between a tester as well as a developer, the developer who should implement it, and then they just go through it, explanations, just some showcases, and then testing or implementation of the script happens. So if we open, I assume you know Cypress a bit, otherwise just be amazed. So that's enough. I do have a prepared empty test in here. Just ignore that above. Usually you would just use the playground, for instance, and oops, just click on that thing, copy it. So that grabs our element using selectors, and then we click on it. So we clicked on it. We click on the login button one more time. Oops. And then we should end up on the login page. So that is how you usually can create Cypress tests, or at least get started. Problem is you end up with lots of that stuff in hopefully lots of tests. So pain in the ass if you just have to switch a centralized login functionality that is used across all these tests. So I did prepare some page objects actions. So I do have separate separate webinars and things on that, but it speaks for itself. So we start by using the admin login action, and we just log in into the administration. So just to give you an idea, it opens /admin and just fills in the default credentials and clicks on submit. So that is how everything is built in the background. Then we use our plugin action that I've initialized above, and I open the plugin configuration. Then we want to activate with true false our feature. We want to say, hey, set text. Normally I would use the text from the test case, but I want to show you Cypress was here. And then we use plugin save settings. Then if good people aren't here, and usually you don't do this, no wait, but in that case we just wait for cache being pruned a second. That's totally fine for now. And then we visit the slash page, and with CI contains we assume that or verify that Cypress was here is found. And in theory that is not a perfect thing. So I do have a repo storefront that basically just gives me that diff layer. And I could also check if b.visible, if that layer is also visible. Yes, usually you would also match if that text is really in that layer, but I think you get the idea. If I now rerun it, you see that, just be amazed. It logs in into the administration, opens the plugin configuration, enters the text, clicks activate, clicks on save, and then opens, oops. Yeah.
And yes.
And suddenly something is not working again. So looks like I have called on multiple.
Yeah, because there's a new Shopware version.
That new Shopware version. Come on. Really? Yeah, just today. But yeah, things happen. So I just use that save settings, click multiple, and we just hope it works. Maybe Shopware today before my webinar.
How could they? But it worked, yes. No, it didn't. It went because it redirected to the update.
Okay.
Website
Then
right
just
now.
do this one, click on save. Contains save, click.
Okay, we have this
Yes,
one.
okay.
Success.
Safe is also
Yes.
fine. So yeah, things happen during a live presentation. I still love doing it live. So as you can see, I'm glad it worked, and we end up in the storefront and everything was validated. So that is how you usually build Cypress tests. So if I now copy my backup, you should see, don't really know if it's working, but it should. But now we have way more tests. We have text can be displayed in storefront. We have no notification if config is disabled. And we also have background color and text color can be adjusted. If we just check out that tests, you even see that I set a hex color based background color, a text color, and verify the CSS entries later on in the storefront. So plenty of stuff that you can do with Cypress. So back to our story, we have TestRail, we have our test run, and problem is we have to manually start Cypress locally and then add our results in here. Might be a bit annoying. What we usually do is this. As soon as a test is approved, we do have an integration. So let me just show you on GitHub. It's all open source, and I'm not the only one having. So there's a Glab, Wallmeyer, people you just know from the Cypress community, and they have also done such integration. Just did it myself. Needed a bit in a different way than extended it, and it's just fun. I just love doing things. So you install in that case Cypress TestRail integration, npm based. You have a configuration with your credentials of TestRail. And then there's two ways. Either add results to existing tests or create a new test run, existing test runs or a new test run. Easy configuration, and most important part, you just add that C identifier. So let me show you. First thing, in order to have it working in the end, is in TestRail, custom site settings, activate the API. Very important. Then all we need to do after setting up our stuff is, I will not show you the Cypress env JSON because it contains my credentials, but it's existing. And all I have to do is our C9 test is now this one. So C9, that's it. When running our Cypress test now in the TestRail integration mode, I have to provide, in that case, a test run. So what I usually do in here is I add a different, most of the time as first one, so that it's on top, but we can also change it, Cypress test. So top bottom, is I let Cypress test everything for me. Once it's green, I will manually test the smoke test. And once they are green, I will test the new features and regression tests. So Cypress test means I will now just save this one. Otherwise, empty runs cannot be saved. So once something is automated, I do open it in here, have an approval by as a developer, have it being approved by my test manager or someone from QA, and then they set it to be automated, in that case, by Cypress. That means an additional thing that we can filter for, which we are going to do now. So our Cypress tests contain, with a dynamic filter, everything that is marked as Cypress, while our smoke tests do now contain everything. I mean, I do it in that way, that is not Cypress automated and still smoke insanity. So that is really something you have to decide if you want to double check your smoke insanity test or not. But that's it. I can save empty test run. So I just add any of those and save. And now it's time to start everything. So I open my Cypress test and I do have an R18 ID. So either in your .env or as an environment variable, I'm use this one because I'm not going to show you the other one. I just, we had 18 and then make run URL is HTTP localhost. And then we are running already with this TestRail integration mode. We have some metadata. What Cypress version do we have? What browser are we using? What local URL are we testing against? What domain are we using? We use an existing run, and that is 18. And once those tests are done, it sends the one that is recognized inside that test run to TestRail. So if I now just refresh, it is green. And it has a past entry with the metadata, what spec file. You could even add Shopware versions. So I have with Shopware plugins, multiple Shopware versions being used at the same time. So I really know what Shopware version might be screwed up or what works. And so lots of data you can use. So this is one option. The other option is something I will show you in Buddy. It's the second mode where test runs are created dynamically. So in my case, I want to have everything green to release it. If you have like a really bigger project, traceability and stuff like that. So every test run is usually closed after it's run. So you know what happens and then you can trace it if it failed, if it worked, and passed suddenly. So there's a second mode to dynamically create test runs. But first, as promised in the introduction slide, we are now in the nuts area where we want to automate that automatic reporting to our automatically run tests in how many automatics, I don't know. This is where Buddy comes into play. So with Buddy, if you're not familiar to Buddy, then you also have projects there. Those projects are usually your Git clone repository. So I did already create that one. And this is connected to my GitHub repository, but you can also have some standalone GitHub repos there. And then you build pipelines. So this is what we are going to do. We build a new CI/CD pipeline. We can have it being triggered manually or automatically. Let's do just manually, automatically. And then we have the option to select across hundreds, thousands of actions for PHP, Linux virtual machine, SSH, local shell, Cloudflare integration, Docker stuff, a lot. If nothing works, there's a pretty cool one that I'm a huge fan of, custom build, because it's all driven by Docker. And I am now just going to use the Docker Flex. This is our project that we have. And then I just reset the default image entry point root. So that is described on a page that I can show you later on. And then all I do is I make install. Wondering if I have to go into a folder, but I don't think so. So let's say install dependencies. And before I talk too much, let's just run it. And it should now finish. Yeah, perfect. So what it does is we have a makefile in here that just does the in root, a composer installation for our PHP vendors in the plugin. Once run, I can even use the browse file system and see that, okay, fine, we have purple created vendor folder. So that seems to be good. So next thing is we are going to install Cypress because it also has to be installed, obviously. I will, because it requires npm and other stuff, but a Cypress prepared action that would even run Cypress, but let's just do this one. So I go to the folder test/Cypress and do a make install, same as locally. And then we install Cypress. So while it runs, the reason why I'm always doing make files is I use it as an abstraction layer, because every project that I at least do or own is working pretty easy, not only in CI/CD systems, but also locally. I want developers to use Cypress locally without thinking how to get it running. So that is very important for me. And also abstraction layers such as Makefiles help you to have your CI/CD systems in a stable way. Because one day our make install might also have some npm packages and not only composer stuff. You would need to change your CI/CD pipelines or tell your developers to, hey, after composer install, please also npm install. Just have one make install, and whatever is behind it is just being executed. So
On the other hand, I think this similar tactic would be to use either composer scripts or npm scripts, something like this. But still, the
yeah.
abstraction layer is a great way, because always one command will do the same thing, and you don't have to wonder what is behind it.
Exactly. So now we have a purple folder node modules, which means it did work. So now, why did I do it in that way? Just install Cypress. You could also just run Cypress. But I want to have, you could decide with my approach of providing the base URL, just have Buddy test your staging environment. And that's just whitelisted domain, IP whitelisted Buddy, and everything good. But I want to go one step further. I want to locally test my whole plugin in a Shopware version directly on Buddy before it leaves the system, before deployment or whatever is going on. So for that approach, I use the same as I did locally. So we have a project called Docware, at least for Shopware. That's, in a nutshell, some amazing dev environments for Shopware where you can easily use any Shopware version and just have it up and running in download time, and then just 5 seconds and it's up and running. So there is plenty of doc pages available. In our CI/CD section, there's Buddy. And if you're missing something, just let us know and we'll add it. But there you can find what I just showed you. And down in the Cypress test, it shows you how to use Docware in that case, Buddy, for Cypress or whatever you are trying to do, install the plugin. So we use a Docker CLI action that allows us to have something, the same thing as locally. We have an Ubuntu environment with Docker CLI. Perfect. So what we are going to do now is we copy a few things from our website. So the script is below. What it does is it just runs Docker or Docware Play, which is a non-development, just a small play version. And we use the, let's use 6.4.15. Oh, I don't know if the new one is already published. Takes a while. That came out today, but let's just use this one. So we have Shopware 6.4.15.0. We name it shop, and we use the port HTTP, so port 80. Then we just, sleep 20 seconds and output what is going on. Then we have a local host suddenly running inside that Buddy action. Then we notification center, copy our plugin content, which is just the current directory, into the plugin folder in Shopware. we do some permission stuff, one liner. Then we install and activate it. And then we open our test folder, Cypress folder. It's already installed. And then we use the official Cypress included 10.8.0 latest version to run against our local host. And the content is the current directory is mapped to the directory E2E that is required. And then it's working. So save. Now it runs Cypress. So actually, I think that should fail because of the new Shopware version. I didn't push my changes. Let's
We'll see.
just
We'll see. Or
we'll
not.
see. But before we'll see, let me just push it. Then we see how Buddy is automatically being triggered. So we have our new tests. Fixed tests. I'm not gonna argue about that commit message with you. Whatever. So and Buddy is
It should
already
run
detecting
automatically. Exactly.
So we have in the queue our CI/CD for our current commit, fix test, and as you can see, the rest is already cached, so it's just a few seconds. And this now takes a bit. While it is running, because Docker, the whole Shopware being downloaded, it's not 5 megabytes. But what I totally recommend when doing it, if I just go to the other pipeline, my backup pipeline, is there's plenty of things you can usually configure in these actions in Buddy. There is a attached cache drive to virtual machine running this action that will cache your Docker layers. And if you also use the shared cache, and you can even use some tags for it, you can share those Docker images across multiple actions. Cool thing. Didn't work in my my SaaS because of the size, but you can also use the on-premise version, or I think have your size being increased. But this is just Docker isn't that small. But this is a cool thing to cache things and speed up the running process for further calls. So back to our action.
Now
So
it's sleeping,
Docker,
so we are near the end. I see.
yes. So we should now, after 20 seconds, get the output of Docker. So we've provided a boot up script with a nice title, a hidden hex-based encrypted text that you could decrypt and let us know, and some stuff, URLs and things you would want to know. Down there, it already installed our plugin and extension, cleared the cache, and now Cypress is already being started. So another Docker image, not that huge as the Docker one, so should only take, I don't know, under a minute probably. And then the Cypress tests are being started. Yes, I did not add the TestRail integration for now because we have our backup pipeline, which does a bit more, because I still own you that the other mode of my TestRail integration where it creates new test runs on the fly. This is the reason why we start the other pipeline in a minute. But now let's just try to figure out, did it work at all so far with the integration? So let's just
Yeah, the waiting part is sometimes quite long. I wanted to mention that every time I have a webinar with you, I really admire the fact that you every time remember to name each step and everything. It's a small thing that I always forget at
Yeah.
some point, and at some point I remember that, yeah, I should start correcting those steps called, I don't know, because by default it's execute, for example, npm install, and I have four steps called execute npm install, and I don't have a clue what they are doing at some
Yeah.
point. So really, I I know that this is a small thing, but I totally admire that you always remember this.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the small things in life, especially when it comes to developer experience. Make open UI with that thing, because you switch across projects, you switch across different programming languages. The easier, especially with
It's,
testing, developers have it, the more they use it.
I see
So
that it passed. It
it
passed.
passed.
War.
Yay! Who would have thought that that might be passing? Me. Anyway, so awesome. We did now completely inside Buddy run a full test of our Shopware plugin with a real Shopware 64150. So let me now show you or run the other pipeline. I hope it's still cached. If not, then at least I have some time explaining you what we are now doing. So
Yes, because there is this part about automating creating the test runs. So yeah.
yeah. And it's always, if you wait for it, it takes ages, but it's meant to be run in the back, so whatever. So I have a bit of more in here prepared. So normally in a CI/CD pipeline, you have more than just running Cypress tests, installing a plugin. We install the dev dependencies, we run PHP stan. You would also do unit tests. You know these tools. What I would recommend is, there's a trade-off. If you have PHP stan, PHP unit, chest, ESLint, and more beneath, next to each other, you have a cool, great visual indication on what is going on. But it's a lot to maintain. So what about a make command, make review, that just executes everything inside? And the good thing is, your developers could just use it locally and have the exact same QA pipeline, except Cypress, that is being also run with the static analyzation, static testing in the pipeline. Nice thing. And you could extend it without touching any pipelines. So next thing is, we create a cypress.env file. How does it look like? That's the last thing I'm going to show you besides the result that we just see. This is our action. So we are creating a .env file on the fly. I would never, just to let you know, upload files in Buddy to use it. Always create it on the fly, because we one day had some caches, and those files were cached, and we were wondering why the new configuration wasn't really used. So create it on the fly, inside echo piping output to a file, and then that is the .env. We have those things. I wasn't able to show you locally, but here we can use easy variables that you can configure full workspace just in your pipeline, just in your project. So now I can show you, because I don't show you. But what I will show you is those things. This is the second way how we can use my integration in that case. So we have a project ID in TestRail. We even provide a milestone that is, in our case, just the Buddy CI/CD runs for whatever reason. And then we provide a run name, and that Buddy run name is Buddy CI/CD, then the variable of Buddy for the revision subject, and then something that I built, a datetime placeholder. And in the end, we want to close the run. So if that is now started and passed, which is a good sign, we have our Cypress tests run in test run creation mode. Everything passed, and it's closed and results are sent. So if we now go to the test runs in TestRail, we have a new closed Buddy CI/CD improved Cypress test with the current date, and it contains our results. So just one test in that case. And the header compared to the existing test run, because it might be different, now it's always the same, is now in the description of the test run. So now that we have that system up and running, QA could just tell me, hey, Christian, C11 is pretty annoying. Could you automate it? And all I do is I use, let's say it's this one, code it, add this one, and I'm done. And it's all completely automated. So I would say that's it for now. Thank you for watching.
It was truly amazing. It was truly amazing. Really mind blown. Mind blown. I mean, um, this is this is the true example because, as you said at the beginning, this flow when we start first the manual testing, then we start automating things, then we start automating the automated things because we see that we lack of that we lack of the reporting because when we starting to have because a bit differently we had such a simple plugin, right? It was, I mean, it was simple as what it was, four fields, yeah, four or five fields, and
Yeah.
that's it. And we were able to create so many tests out of it. So it's really easy to imagine how many tests are in those
An
bigger
enterprise
ones.
e-commerce project. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, even such a notification bar, it's kind of useful, but it would probably, the real one should have also the URL, so auto closing, auto opening, so the number of our actions would grow. So
Mhm.
our test cases would also grow in a very, very quick amount of time, and without reporting, without having those cases, how to do it manually. I can imagine that at some point, either we would just pretend that we are testing everything, or we would go nuts because of the manual testing. Because let's be honest, manual testing is boring in most cases. Only the
Yeah.
edge cases and only the first time when we find, oh, this is an interesting bug. The rest of it is like, it's horrible. It's just a horrible experience. So
Mhm.
uh, the case that you show how to use TestRail, how to write those scenarios, because writing those scenarios is something quite new to me. Uh, but
Mhm.
it's logical. It's really logical because, like we mentioned before, we can show such a scenario to almost any person, and such person should be able to follow it and be a tester for us. And
Yeah.
that's something cool because we don't have to test it anymore. So
Exactly. May
so
I just add one thing if
mhm.
it's new, just to let everyone know? There are different principles of testing. So there's one thing that automated tests are super, those scripted things, but they don't find new bugs. So always keep in mind this helps for side effects regression tests, but always do manual testing in addition to this. Very important.
Yes, exactly. Because every time we would follow such a scenario, Cypress will just follow it and don't mind a bug that happened just outside of our testing zone. And the real user will be able to see, okay, every time when I, for example, switch the active deactivate button, the page reloaded or something like this.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's why manual testing is also important. From what I see, sadly, we don't have any additional questions. Um, but still, thank you so much for this. Like I said, I learned a lot, and I really hope that everyone learned a lot too. So just to some additional things to mention. If you like our webinars, don't forget to join our Buddy CI/CD group on Meetup. You will be informed about all the upcoming webinars. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn ones. Depend where you are active. And of course, do not forget to follow Christian on Twitter. You can see his Twitter handle near him. So thank you all. We will see each other in 4 weeks. We will have something about e-commerce, but more details will come soon. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christian, once again, and can't wait to have yet another webinar with you because it will be, for sure, it will be amazing. So
Absolutely.
thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.